Hello, good morning, everyone. Um, so this lecture is the last lecture. It talks about integrating derivative assets and portfolio management, meaning that you're trying to incorporate the derivative financial products into your investment portfolio. So, so basically, this is what this lecture is about. And now, the thing here is what you need to understand is that derivatives it can be used for portfolio management. And what are derivatives? So derivatives are basically we're talking about financial products like futures contract, options contract, and forward contract. So in this lecture, we're dealing with futures and options contracts. So these futures and options contract can be actually used in risk management and income generation for the investment portfolio. They can also be used to adjust the fixed income portfolio, the equity portfolio, or both to accomplish the investment objectives. So now the some examples here. If we look at slide 3 and 4, you have some examples, and you look at slide 5. The example here is that you decide to include stocks in the portfolio for a $1 million so that you can achieve a portfolio beta which is between 1.05 and 1.15. And the investment in each stock is between 4 and 7% of the total. And you avoid odd lots. So how do you actually try to come up with this portfolio that you want to invest? You can use linear programming, okay, to come up with the solution. Linear programming is a type of basically kind of analysis using software, which you can use it to determine what is the optimal value of investment, okay, based upon the constraints that you have, and also the amount of investment or capital that you have. So this is what it is all about. And you look at slide number 6, you have another example. You have the final portfolio consists of a certain value of bonds, stocks, cash, and of course the total value as well. And you also have the existing portfolio yielding $33,350 from bonds and $25,026 from dividends. $1,624 short relative to the $75,000 goal. So now what you can do to solve this problem? You can basically do one thing, which is slide number 7. You write index calls, meaning that write means you sell, okay? So you sell call option on stock index. So you sell short-term out of the money call option, okay, for the stock index, okay, to avoid the exercise of it. And you calculate the implied volatility of the option. Implied volatility of the option it means the estimated volatility of the option price. And you use this estimated volatility value to determine the option delta. And what is option delta? Option delta is basically the degree to which an option is exposed to fluctuations in the price of the underlying asset. And this option delta range from -1 to +1. And the bottom line is that you need to determine the number of options you can sell in order to achieve your investment objective. So, so what you can do here is now this another thing that you must do. So this is part of the requirement of effective stock portfolio management. And what is portfolio delta? Portfolio delta is the changes in the value of the portfolio investment. And in slide number 8, it says that the equity portion of the portfolio has a beta 1.08. And basically, if you write or sell the call option, okay, so that will always reduce the portfolio beta. Okay, so selling call options always carry negative beta. Okay, negative beta. So what you do now, you determine the hedge ratio for the stock portfolio. So you calculate the hedge ratio, which is basically the portfolio value divided by the contract value, okay, multiplied by the beta. So in this slide number 8, you get 36.02 by doing that. So this is some examples in terms of the calculations. And you have, the slide number 9, further calculations. Now, remember that when you hedge a particular investment portfolio, you're trying to bring the position delta back to 0 or equals to 0. So that's a very important understanding. And portfolio delta is the changes in the value of the portfolio investment. Okay, so if you look at slide number 10, slide number 9 as well, there are some example of the calculations. So these are the things that you need to know. Okay. Now coming back to slide number 7, having understood what are all those portfolio delta, all those things, then you can determine the number of options that you can sell, and so and this is actually given by the hedge ratio. So the hedge ratio basically tells you the number of contracts required for hedging purposes. So that's the hedge ratio. So that's how the two they are linked. Okay, so slide 7 and slide 8, is linked through the calculation of the hedge ratio. Okay. And if you look at the 8, 9, and 10, as I said, those are examples of calculations. And for slide number 11 and 12, it says that the options on the equity can be used to hedge the unsystematic risks. So again, remember, hedging is trying to bring the position delta to 0. So you calculate the hedge ratio, absolute value of put delta multiplied by 100. Okay, so that's the again, slide number 13 and 14 show some examples. Okay, and an interesting thing to learn in this lecture position is the degree to which an option is exposed to shift in the degree of the underlying asset price. Okay, so So that's the thing that you need to understand. Okay, so major, you know, for the put only scenario compared with the put and call alternative. So you must be able to determine, you know, whether to use one or use both. Okay, and of course the for the fixed income portfolio, just now we're talking about equity portfolio. Now for the fixed income portfolio, where this we are talking about bonds here, T-bond futures can be used to reduce the interest rate risks, okay, by reducing portfolio duration. So if the interest rate rise, the value of the fixed income portfolio will drop. Why? Because interest rate and the bond price, they are inversely related. And there's another way to hedge the fixed income portfolio is using T-bond futures, options on the T-bond futures contract, you know, rather than T-bond futures contract by itself. So how do you hedge the bond portfolio value with T-bond futures? Again, you look at slide 17, you get given the formula, and slide 18 as well, you determine the hedge ratio, which is the number of contracts to hedge. You determine the number of contracts to hedge, where it includes the hedge ratio. Okay, and that's basically the formula is different. Okay, is different from slide number 8. Slide number 8, the hedge ratio is portfolio value divided by contract value times beta. So you know, so in this case, for the fixed income portfolio, you know, is the number. So the number of contracts to hedge has a slightly different formula, you know. Okay, so in this case, for fixed income portfolio, the number of contracts used is the portfolio value divided by 100,000 times the hedge ratio. You know, so that's the formula. So if you use that example to calculate, you can get some answers, you know, for those examples, and you can also use options on the futures contract. And if that's the case, then the hedge ratio equals to the conversion factor times the portfolio value divided by 100,000 times 1 over delta. The hedge ratio you can calculate. So the hedge ratio basically tells you how many contracts is needed for hedging. The understanding behind hedge ratio. Okay, so that's the end of today's lecture session. You know, regarding this lecture, if you do not understand anything. Okay, so goodbye and stay safe.